442, I think. Okay, today is June. I'll do it right-handed. June 7th, 2011. We're on chapter 2. We're going to start taking up the test, try to get as far as we can. We're going to start with the very first question. So remember, this is technically chapter 2-3. First question says, a line segment has the endpoints J, -2, -5, and K, 4, 3. Always the first coordinate is our X, and the second is our Y. So let's plot these 2 points. -2 on our X, -5 on our Y. There's 1 point. Our other point is 4 and 3. First question says, graph the line segment. I would hope that almost all of you got this. This was a free mark right there. That's all you had to do, was draw a line between those 2 points. Now, the second thing you needed to do is determine the length of the line segment JK. Does anyone remember the distance formula? Liam. Do I add, subtract in between, anything, multiply? Yep. Good. Okay. So the formula, D is equal to the root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So we're going to take our coordinates. We're going to call the first coordinate 1. So that makes this x1 and y1. And we'll call the second coordinate 2, which makes this x2 and y2. So we're going to plug those values in. So we get the roots of x2 is 4, subtract x1 is -2 squared plus, I gotta move closer, y2 is 3, subtract y1 is -5. And we'll have to square that. So, square root of 4 subtract -2 is the same as 4 plus 2. 6 squared is 36. Plus 3 subtract -5 squared. Okay, 3 subtract -5 is 8. 8 squared is 64. 64 plus 36 is equal to, so the root of 100. 10. So the distance of this line segment is 10 units long. Question C, find the midpoint of the line segment. Does anyone remember the formula for midpoint? Fine. Midpoint formula, you take the 2x coordinates and add them and divide by 2. That gives you the x coordinate. You take the 2 y coordinates, add them, divide by 2. So our 2x coordinates, we remember from before, were 4 and -2. So let's do 4 plus -2 divided by 2. And our 2 y coordinates were -5 and 3. So -5 plus 3 divided by 2. 4 plus -2 is, anyone remember? 2. And -5 plus 3 is -2 and 2. 2 by 2 is 1 and -1. So our midpoint is 1 and -1 right here. That seems pretty logical. It makes sense. Find the slope of the line segment. Jaden, how do you find the slope? Rise over run. So slope is equal to rise over run. So what we can do is we can also take the two endpoints. Okay? So x2. Okay. That's right. So our slope is also known as rise is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y2, if you remember from up here, 3 subtract negative 5, so we get 3 subtract negative 5 divided by 4 subtract negative 2. 3 subtract negative 5 is 8 divided by 6, which means our rise over our run, or our slope, is known as 4 over 3. Okay? Or 1.33333. And finally, write an equation in standard form for the line through these 2 points. Now, these are the same 2 points from above. We've already found the slope, and remember, we need to be in y equals mx plus b form. We already know m. M is our slope, 4.3. So we have y is equal to 4 over 3x plus b. Now, I could look at the graph, but it might be in between. So I'm going to take one of the points and plug them in. Let's take our first point. This will be our x-coordinate. That will be our y-coordinate. So I substitute negative 5 in for the y. That was our y-coordinate. 4 over 3 times. And I substitute negative 2 in for the x. And now we're going to solve for b. So negative 5 is equal to negative 2 times 4 is 8 over 3 plus b. I'm going to bring that fraction to the other side, so it becomes negative 5 plus 8 over 3 equals b. Now I need to make that 5 a similar fraction, or it needs to have the same denominator. So it's going to be 15. So you're right. I got to put it over 1. And then I need a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply the entire fraction by 3. Negative 15 over 3 plus 8 over 3 is equal to b, which means b is equal to negative 7 over 3. Now let's try to make sense of that. That's a fraction. What is that as a decimal? That would be 3 repeated. So let's take a look. It's negative 2.333 repeated. We take a look. Yeah, we're probably around 2 1/3 on our y-intercept. That's the first page of this test. So finally, I did not actually answer the question. I needed to make the equation. So the equation is y is equal to 4 over 3 x plus, and I'm going to put it in fraction form. Sorry, it's not plus. It's subtract 7 over 3. There is our equation. And finally, it actually says to put it in standard form. So I just need to move the y to the other side of the equation. So what this says is 0 is equal to 4 over 3x minus y minus 7 over 3. If I didn't want it as a fraction, I can multiply everything by 3. If I multiply the entire equation by 3, 0 times 3 is 0. That would eliminate those 3, so I get 4x minus 3y minus 7. Standard form, it says. I did. It canceled out the other 3. When I brought it in here, it became 7 times 3. Those 3's cancel out. Same idea with the 4. Those 3's cancel out. But then there's a 3y you had to put in front. Minimize. Okay, question number 2. It says state the radius of the circle. So the equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared.
I remember this question so much. There's this
To get black, you have to go over there. Because there's no black up there. So the equation of a circle is x squared. Can you write?
Yeah.
Okay. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. What they've done in this one is they've replaced r squared with 169. So r squared is equal to 169. So put a new equation. R squared equals 169. Okay, now make a second equation. R squared equals 169. Okay. Now, what we need to do is we need to find R. R is the radius of this circle. So we need to square root both sides to find out what R is equal to. So the square root of 169 is 13. So the radius of the circle is 13 units. Not 13 point, it's 13 on the dot. All right, question 3. Write an equation for the circle with the center at 0 and a radius of 9.3. So again, the equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Okay? Now, the radius of the circle is 9.3, so we're going to replace just the r with 9.3. So we have x squared plus y squared equals 9.3 squared. Shouldn't I do this one? I like this. Okay? And then now what we need to do is we need to find what 9.3 squared is. And when you square it, you get 86.49. So the equation of the circle is x squared plus y squared equals 86.49. Good. Scroll down. Yeah, push down and pull. There you go. Okay. Number 4. Triangle DEF has vertices -2, 4, 0, -2, 6, 2. And it says, the triangle, yeah. Determine the equation of DG, the median from F to DE. Is that what that says? I couldn't read it. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all is we're going to plot the point. So we're going to just, hold on, we're going to zoom in. Go to view zoom. We're going to zoom in on that graph because it's very hard to read right now. Oh, it's supposed to be the equation of FG. Go to, 200. And then go sideways. Good. Okay. Now also, remember on the test, apparently I changed this question to FG, the equation of FG. So we're just going to scratch out DG and make that FG. Okay, that's what the question actually said. Okay, so the very first point, you don't have to move, is -2 and 4. That's point D. So -2 and 4, that's point D. The second point is 0, -2, which is point E. 0, -2. So X is 0. No, X is 0. Y is -2. Erase that. It's okay. So it's 0, -2. So you're on the y-axis, and you're at -2. Very good. That's okay. And that was point E. And finally, point F is at 6, 2. That's a 6. That's 2. There you go. Point E. Oh, that is 8. He's right. There you go. Wow. Okay. Now, let's point F. Now we're going to connect these dots.
Where's the line thing?
It's up at the top. Do it in red. There we go. So we have line DE, line EF, and line DF. And the question says, determine the equation of FG, the median from F to DE. So we need to find the middle point, so we're just going to kind of guesstimate what the middle point of DE is. So we're going to go to the midpoint of DE and draw a line to point F. So we estimate it's about there. Okay, it's going right through there. There would be our line. So what we need to do is we actually have to find the equation. So let's zoom out again.
What was it at 100?
125. Okay. Now, in order to find this, I need to find the midpoint of DE. So remember, midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 divided by 2. So put a bracket. And the first coordinate is x2. X2, not squared. Subscript 2. Yeah. X2, yes, plus x1 divided by 2, comma, and then y2 plus y1 divided by 2. So that is our midpoint formula. Now we're looking for the midpoint of D and E. So our 2 points D and E, I want you to just quickly underline D and E there. They're up in the question. The 2 coordinates, yeah. So they're the first 2 points. We need to plug those values in. So we're going to call E our 2. So x2 is 0, right underneath. So you're going to have 0, and then because we're adding negative 2, it's going to be 0, subtract 2. Yep. 0 subtract 2 divided by 2, comma. And our y2 is negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2. Okay? And then on our next line, we're going to equate that. So that's going to be negative 2 divided by 2 and 2 divided by 2. So once we equate those 2 fractions, we discover that the actual midpoint is x is negative 1 and y is 1. Now, we're not done this question. All we did was find out what the midpoint between DE is. Now that we have that midpoint, I need to find the equation between point F and point E. Go ahead, Liam. Yeah, so the first thing we're going to do is find the slope. So slope is m is equal to y2, good, minus y1, divided by x2 minus x1. Thank you for doing this. Fine. Our y2, we're going to call point F our 2 in this instance. So y2 is 2, and y1, remember, we're going to the y from the midpoint. So our y1 is 1. Our x2 will be 6, and our x1 will be negative 1. Very good. So now we're going to equate that. 2 subtract 1 is 1, and 6 subtract negative 1 is 7. So the slope of this new line is 1 over 7. So let's write in y equals mx plus b. So let's write out our formula for our equation. Y equals mx plus b. Yeah. We're going to replace the m with 1 over 7. And we're going to choose one of the points to replace x and y because, again, we have to solve for b. So let's use the midpoint. It's easy. So we're going to replace x with negative 1. And we're going to replace the y in that equation with 1. And then plus b on the outside. There we go. Okay. So now we need to equate this. So our next line will read 1 is equal to negative 1 over 7 because 1 times negative 1 times 1 over 7 is negative 1 over 7 plus b. Then we're going to move the negative 1 over 7 to the other side of the equation. So it becomes 1 plus 1 over 7 equals b. Okay, now just draw an arrow to that little space there. Good. Now we need to make the 1 a fraction. Yeah, but then we want to make the denominator 7. So it's actually going to be 7 over 7 plus 1 over 7 is equal to b. And 7 over 7 plus 1 over 7 is 8 over 7 equals b. Now the question says determine the equation. They haven't told us to put it in any specific form, so we're going to put it in y equals mx plus b form. So y is equal to 1 over 7x plus 8 over 7. Push pause. Okay, minimize. Question 5. For the line segment CD, scroll back, there you go. One endpoint is negative 3 and 7, and the midpoint is 1 and 4. We need to find the coordinate of D. Okay? So, what we're going to do here is we need to figure out, first of all, how far the distance is between our first 2 points. So, what we're going to do is we're going to find our first 2 points. Push pause for a sec. Okay, we are going to use our distance formula, okay? So, distance formula is D is equal to the root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, now we're going to plug in our values. We're going to call m our x2. So x2 will be 1, and x1 will be negative 3. So that's 1 subtract negative 3 squared, plus y2 is 4 subtract 7 squared, and we're going to equate that. 1 subtract negative 3 is 4 squared. And 4 subtract 7 is negative 3 squared. So we have 16 plus 9. So pause for a sec, though. Okay, so we've gone a bit far. What we need to do now is what's important is the distance between our 2 x points. So the actual distance was 4. We didn't need to square it. That number 4, so let's write that on the outside. No, just put 4 down. Okay, and our other distance was negative 3. So write down negative 3. Now what that means is that was essentially almost like if we were drawing a triangle. So what we had is, let's say we had 1 point here. Our x distance was 4, our y distance was negative 3. So we went over 4, 2, 3, 4, down 3, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, that means it's there. So that is from our first point to the midpoint. In other words, that's halfway. We need to double it to find out our next point. So what we need to do is go back to the marker. It's on the left side. That's right. We need to multiply those distances by 2, both of them. So we need to do 4 times 2. Is the wrong marker. Yeah, go back up. Need the black one. Yeah. 4 times 2 is going to be 8. Sure. 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So that's going to be one of the distances. And the other distance, negative 3 times 2, is going to be negative 6. So our first endpoint was C. So we need to take our C, and we need to get the x value, which is negative 3, and we need to add 8 to it. So let's put a coordinate underneath that line. Right there, yeah. So we know that endpoint D will be equal to, so let's say D is equal to, this is endpoint D, not the distance. D is equal to bracket negative 3 plus 8, comma, and the other value was 7 minus 6. So this is going to give us our new coordinate. We took the endpoint C and we just added those distances. So, which is equal to negative 3 plus 8 is 5.
Minus 1.
And 5 and 1. So the coordinate of point D is 5, 1.